Welcome to Food for Thought podcast, brought to you by the listeners of this podcast. Thank you for valuing it by becoming a supporter at joyfulvegan.com/donate. And today's episode is supplemented by support from Plain Products, a vegan-owned company offering cruelty-free, zero-waste personal care products free of animal products. They offer shampoos and conditioners, body washes, lotions, and more. They package all of their personal care products in eco-friendly, refillable bottles that you return empty when you're done, that they sanitize and refill, which is amazing. It's a convenient, innovative refill system that closes the loop on waste. You can visit joyfulvegan.com/hair because that's where you'll find the link for 15% off and the code. You have to enter the code and you have to use the link to get your 15% off all of your Plain products every single time you order. The link and the discount code is also in the show notes for today's episode. The show notes for today's episode. I hope you become a fan like I am. Check it out today. Go to joyfulvegan.com/hair. Today's episode is From Cholesterol to Vitamins, the must-know blood tests for monitoring health and preventing disease. Before we begin, hi everyone, my name is Colleen Patrick-Goudreau. You can find me at joyfulvegan.com. You can find me on social media. You can find me wherever my books are sold. My newest book is coming out in late March of 2025 called A Year of Compassion. 52 weeks of living zero waste, plant-based, and cruelty-free. You can join me in my online cooking classes or in one of my vegan trips, all-inclusive. So many amazing places around the world. You can find all of that at joyfulvegan.com. And I hope you make sure you're subscribed to the podcast and that you leave a positive rating and review. I'm on a high. It's probably a good time to record a podcast when you're on a high. I have been maybe telling you, or certainly supporters have heard about, the relationship I've had with an organization in New York City called Encore Community Services. And I have been supporting the members and several staff members through the 30-Day Vegan Challenge. Anyone who was interested joined the 30-Day Vegan Challenge. We gave everyone a book. That was with the help of supporter Ali Sorrentino. Everyone got a copy of the 30-Day Vegan Challenge, and I was there with them in check-ins every week, Q&As, and just basically guiding people through this experience. And today was the last day. Technically, it goes until the end of September, and people can obviously continue being vegan through, after September. But today was the last check-in, and oh my gosh, I am going to actually share the audio of I say meeting. It was, they're all in person at the center in New York City. I'm virtual, and a couple other people have been virtual. There was one staff member who was virtual, but I actually checked in with the executive director and I said, I have to share this. I don't want to share the video or find out first if I have permission to share the video. I don't want to do that until I have permission because there's people's faces and I want to make sure that people, give approval for that. But for the audio, there are so many incredibly inspiring stories and comments and thoughts, and I want to share that with you. So stay tuned. I'm gonna get that audio and give a little intro and then share that with you. So I'm still on a high. People are incredible. People are open. People are curious. People are compassionate. And it is what continues to inspire me and enable me to keep doing this work. It's been 25 years, folks, since I've been doing this work. It's 30 years since I've been doing work related to animals at all, but certainly 25 years now that I've been doing this around veganism and animals. And I am always amazed. Not amazed in the sense that I didn't think it was possible, but amazed in the sense that my heart is so moved and I am inspired all the time by the openness I see in people. So I'm on a high. I just want to remind you that we have a new holiday class coming up called The Joy of Holiday Baking. You can register for that at joyfulvegan.com. And we have a focaccia class coming up, so you can also register for that at joyfulvegan.com. And finally, we have a couple spots left for our France trip in 2025 and our Croatia trip in 2025. So go to joyfulvegan.com and join me on one of those incredible trips. So I thought this was actually a really good segue. One of the things we did for the Encore 30-Day Vegan Challenge was they were able to get funding from City Meals, who has been sponsoring the 30 Day Vegan Challenge for them. I've been donating my time. So if you are a supporter of mine, just know that that's where your support is going. And it's going to this podcast. It's going to all the work that I do, because I don't get a paycheck other than what you provide for me as a supporter. But Encore was able to get a lot of things covered for them, the food, the additional food, the blood work, because they had a lab come in before the 30 Day Vegan Challenge started, just at the kickoff, and they had them come back today. So how exciting is that? Everybody who was participating in the 30 Day Vegan Challenge, and by the way, over 65 people signed up, which is amazing, because they were expecting, like, I don't know, 10, 15, they didn't know. And 65 people signed up. And what you'll hear when I share the audio with you from today's final check-in are people who want to join, who didn't join before and want to join now. And of course, it's never too late. They can obviously do this at any time. We're going to make sure that everybody has copies of the 30 Day Vegan Challenge for all time. And I will just keep them in copies of the 30 Day Vegan Challenge for as long as they need them. So I'm just incredibly inspired, and I can't wait to share that with you. But one of the things that I think is really empowering for people is, and I've said this for years, I said this at the launch of the 30 Day Vegan Challenge back in 2011, and continue to, it's in the book, it's in the online program, is I really encourage people to get their blood work done before they start something like a 30 Day Vegan Challenge, and then test again at the end of the 30 Day Vegan Challenge to see the difference. Now, you don't have to do this only if you're starting a 30 Day Vegan Challenge. I do think it's something that we should do probably every year, depending on what you're able to do. But blood tests are really a window into our body's internal workings. They offer invaluable insights that help detect potential health issues before they become more serious. And I'm going to share some things with you that I've experienced. I'm going to share some of my blood work with you, but I'm going to explain today why I think blood work is such a valuable tool for maintaining health, what's typically measured in a blood panel, what the optimum numbers look like, how to think about them, what to do with them, because I really think understanding these numbers can help you stay on top of your health and prevent potential issues before they become serious, right? There are so many diseases, so many conditions that we can't detect through means other than blood tests or urinalyses as well. And I'm going to talk about those today. So early detection is key. We've all been aware of the fact that the kind of modern health industry really is about kind of putting a Band-Aid on really serious issues, but also just not really focusing on prevention. And there are so many conditions, heart disease, diabetes, or nutrient deficiencies, just so many of them that develop silently. They don't show symptoms until they're already advanced. And when you think of something like heart disease, arteries don't have nerve endings. It's one of the ways that our bodies signal pain is through nerve endings, but our arteries don't have nerve endings. And so for many people, the gradual narrowing of arteries from atherosclerosis goes unnoticed. I talked to a neighbor just last week. He's probably, I think, even younger than I am. I'm 54. I think he's 50, and he had a heart attack in front of his 13-year-old son, collapsed, and wound up getting triple bypass surgery. And when I talked to him, he said, what a lot of people say, which is, I didn't really eat a lot of meat. I think he did, but a lot of people have this perception that they don't. And he knows what I do. He's very aware of what I do. I'm pretty sure he has a copy of my 30 Day Vegan Challenge. And he was surprised by the heart attack. He was surprised by the buildup of plaque in his arteries. And, I was talking to him and I said, so are you doing things differently now? And he goes, oh, yeah, I'm eating salads more. I'm not vegan, but I'm eating salads more. And anyway, we were talking about the fact that, he didn't know his arteries were clogged until he had the heart attack. And I said that, arteries don't have nerve endings. And he goes, yeah, that's really true. And I said, unless you feel angina, which is the chest pain, if plaque ruptures and a clot forms, that's when you have the complete blockage of the artery. That's what causes the heart attack. That's usually when people know that they had clogged arteries. And I've heard this over the years. You probably have as well. People say, so and so's husband died of a heart attack out of the blue. So and so's wife died of a heart attack out of the blue. He was perfectly healthy in every other way, and he dropped dead of a heart attack. No, he wasn't perfectly healthy. That's the point. He died because of a sudden disruption of blood flow to the heart, which doesn't happen in perfectly healthy people. And one way to catch those issues that lead to a heart attack before they escalate to a critical, read fatal stage, hopefully not fatal, but often fatal, but definitely critical, is regular monitoring of cholesterol levels and other health markers. And cholesterol is really only able to be determined, the levels, through blood tests. There are other things we can do at home. We can do blood glucose levels. We can do blood pressure. We can go to the pharmacy and get our blood pressure. And there's some at-home tests we can take, and I'm going to talk about some of those. And you can do at-home cholesterol tests as well. We're going to talk about all of that. But that's what we're going to talk about today, why looking at these health markers are so important, why regular monitoring of these biomarkers through blood tests allow us to make proactive changes in our diet, in our exercise, in our lifestyle to prevent early detection of and tracking of key health markers, because they can significantly reduce the risk of developing the chronic, sadly common, preventable diseases like heart disease, like type 2 diabetes, like liver disease, like kidney disease, and so much more. So let's talk about some of these tests and what we're looking for and what things are typically not measured on these standard tests and where and how you can get those done separately. So let's begin. Now, standard blood panels offer a wealth of information. Certainly look at them with your doctor or your health practitioner. But what I want to do today is empower you a little bit to be able to look at them yourself and understand what they mean and know what the optimal numbers are. Now, most results will include a range that is a typical optimal range, and that's helpful. And today we're going to talk about why some of those numbers might be a little skewed because, well, for a number of reasons. One is typically they're going off of male-centric data. Medical research historically has focused more on men, leading to reference ranges that might not reflect women's physiological differences. Also, most biomarker norms are derived from meat-eating populations, which obviously can impact nutrient levels. And of course, standards typically reflect the Western diet and exercise habits and health conditions that are seen in developed countries, which can skew expectations for other lifestyles, i.e. like plant-based lifestyles. So let's get into this. I'm not going to go over every single solitary test that is measured on a blood test. There are some things that are not on a typical blood test. That includes omega-3 index, vitamin D, inflammation markers, homocysteine, hormone tests, micronutrients, that kind of thing. So we're going to focus on some of the more common ones. And actually, I already have a podcast episode ready to go for omega-3s specifically. So we're going to talk about omega-3s and what our levels should be, what to look for, how to get those tested, how to get the omega-3 levels tested, and we'll do that in a separate episode. Let's talk about cholesterol first. Cholesterol is a type of fat or lipid, so this will be in the lipid section of the blood panel, that's produced by the liver. Cholesterol is produced by the liver. Cholesterol is a type of fat produced by the liver. So I want to just keep saying that so we understand what it is, because there's a lot of confusion about what cholesterol is, the difference between dietary cholesterol and the cholesterol that our bodies make. So cholesterol is a type of fat produced by the liver. It's essential for many functions in the body, including building cell membranes, producing hormones, and aiding in digestion. And while it's essential for those bodily functions, millions of adults in the United States, and this goes for elsewhere as well, struggle with high cholesterol. 86 million people, to be exact. And that's a problem because high levels are strongly linked to plaque buildup in the arteries, which hardens and narrows blood vessels over time, a condition known as atherosclerosis. I always liken our arteries to a hose. I just think it's a really helpful analogy. And if you imagine buildup inside that hose that hardens over time, the water can't get through, the blood can't get through in this case. And so it's constricted. And that is a problem because what we know to be true is we want to make sure blood is flowing to all organs, to all parts of our body, so that all of our body parts can do what they're supposed to do. And so, for instance, if the blood flowing to the heart is in an artery that flows to the heart and that blood can't flow to the heart in that artery, then we could have a heart attack. And pieces of plaque might break off and cause a stroke if blood can't get to the brain. And since most people don't show symptoms until their arteries are already heavily clogged, doctors rely on cholesterol levels to detect and address heart disease risk early. And this is what I mean when I say you often don't know that your arteries are clogged because we don't have nerve endings in them. And why wait until we are on the verge of a heart attack or need a stent, or are told that we need to get bypass surgery, or we need cholesterol lowering drugs, i.e. statins? Why do that? Regular cholesterol testing is key to preventing heart disease and other health issues. Is it perfect? No, nothing is, but it's pretty good and it's better than we used to have. So it's a tool that I highly recommend everyone take advantage of. Now, cholesterol comes from two main sources. I mentioned dietary cholesterol, which is found in things only that come out of or off of an animal because it's made in the liver. Plants don't have livers. Therefore, plants don't make cholesterol, and there is no cholesterol in plant food. Name a plant food. Nope. No cholesterol. Name another one. Nope. No cholesterol. If you see a package, we used to joke about this, my husband and I, because you'd see a package of pretzels and it would say cholesterol free. I'm like, yeah, of course it's cholesterol free. You could put anything that's plant-based and it would be cholesterol free because plants don't make cholesterol. That includes wheat. Wheat plants don't make cholesterol. So that's one source of cholesterol from our diet. And the other source is our own body. The cholesterol our body makes because we are animals. Our liver produces the cholesterol we need to function properly. And in fact, our bodies regulate cholesterol production based on internal needs. So there's no need to consume cholesterol through food, through animal products, despite what some charlatans will tell you. We have no physiological requirement to consume dietary cholesterol, period, full stop. And one of the reasons vegetarians and vegans tend to have lower levels of cholesterol, both total as well as LDL and HDL, which we're going to get to, is because they're not consuming dietary cholesterol. Now, consuming dietary cholesterol is not the only way to increase our body's cholesterol levels. Consuming saturated fat, particularly from animal sources, contributes to increased blood cholesterol levels. Now, it's true that there are plant-based saturated fats like that found in coconuts, but they are chemically different from the saturated fats in animal products. Coconut oil, for instance, contains medium chain triglycerides, which are easier for the body to metabolize for energy, while animal fats contain long chain fatty acids that are more likely to raise LDL, bad cholesterol, we're going to get to that, and increase heart disease risk. Though coconut oil may raise both LDL and HDL, its overall health impact is still debated, and I stand by the experts I look to that say coconut oil and those other oils, avocado oil or just avocado fats, coconut fats, they do not have the same composition that animal fats do, and so they don't have the same risk. Does that mean I eat coconut oil every day? No. Does that mean I eat avocado every day? Actually, yes, I do eat avocado every day. But I don't have the same concerns about that because they are very different, very, very different. Also, genetics certainly play a role in determining cholesterol levels, but they don't doom anyone to having high cholesterol, and they certainly don't doom anyone to having heart disease. It's not inevitable that you're going to have heart disease if you have high cholesterol levels in your family history. If you have a family history of high cholesterol or heart attacks, you may be predisposed to having higher levels of especially LDL, quote unquote bad cholesterol, but genetics are only one part of the equation. In most cases, and we've seen this with all of the experts we know, the Dr. Esselsteins and the Dr. Furmans and the Dr. McDougals, there are so many studies that demonstrate that lifestyle choices have a significant impact on our cholesterol levels and overall heart health. Even if you have a genetic predisposition, adopting healthy habits like eating a plant-based diet, exercising regularly, avoiding smoking, for instance, can definitely help manage or lower your cholesterol. And many people believe that because their family has a history of heart disease, that they're destined for the same outcome, but that is not true. And it's heartbreaking because I think it's so incredibly disempowering when that is our orientation. Diet plays a huge role. And so making sure that you're consuming really heart-healthy, plant-based foods every single day can significantly lower your risk of high cholesterol and heart attacks, even if they run in your family. And that is what is so exciting about doing something like a 30-day vegan challenge. It's why I'm so excited to see the blood work from our participants in the 30-day vegan challenge that I was doing with Encore in New York City, because it really is incredibly empowering. And it might seem shocking to you that you can lower your cholesterol in 30 days. Here's what's shocking. You can lower your cholesterol within a meal, within a day. So you can measure your cholesterol before a meal and after a meal, and you can see a change in your cholesterol, your blood cholesterol levels, depending on what you eat. So we just have to remember, when we talk about the diseases that are so rampant in our societies today, we just keep talking about environmental factors, but we talk about environmental factors as if what we eat is not an environmental factor. It is the most prevalent environmental factor because we're quite literally consuming the environment. So it's incredibly powerful. And so everything we put in our body determines our health at any given moment. And yeah, over time, we can see a real effect because we're doing it several times a day, and every day for several weeks, we're going to see the effects. But you can see the effects within a day, but most people just don't get their cholesterol levels checked, right, every single day and before and after a meal. But if you want to, you can, and you can see for yourself how what you eat impacts what your blood cholesterol levels are. So blaming genetics, disempowering. The reality is you have a lot of control over your health. It's true that we inherit some risks, but we also have the ability to influence those risks through our choices. Genetics are not your destiny. And I find that we scapegoat our ancestors when we say, nah, it's in my history, it's in my family history. I've got no choice. Okay, I just feel like I need to say this. If you are working with your doctor and your doctor feels that you should go on statins to lower your cholesterol, I'm not here to say that you should not do that. But the problem is today, statins are the first line of defense rather than the last. And there's a lot we can do before we should look at taking serious drugs that have serious side effects, especially if we don't make any lifestyle changes. So this is not medical advice. This is just facts in terms of what we are capable of doing, able to do, and the effects that we can potentially see based on lifestyle changes that we make. So let's look at the lipid panel first. On your blood panel results in that section called lipids, you're going to see total cholesterol, triglycerides, HDL, LDL, and VLDL. I think people tend to be pretty confused about all of these, right? We call LDL bad cholesterol and we call HDL good cholesterol, but what does that even mean? I find when I explain to people about cholesterol, because people are always asking me about their blood panels, which I love looking at. I love looking at people's blood panels if they want to share it with me. And so the analogy that I find really helpful is to use the concept of garbage trucks. So if you think of cholesterol as debris or garbage that needs to be transported through the body, that's what I think is really helpful. So cholesterol needs to be transported through the body. Cholesterol itself is not bad, so I don't even like to call it garbage. It's debris that is moving through our body, and our body uses this cholesterol for really important functions like building cell membranes, like producing hormones, as I said. But it needs to be transported properly to the cells and from the blood to avoid problems. It's all about the transportation vehicles. And LDL and HDL are those transportation vehicles. I don't call them garbage trucks, but they're just transportation vehicles. So imagine the cholesterol going through your blood, going to your cell membranes, coming out of your body, through your blood, through your liver, all the things. That's what cholesterol needs to do, but it needs transportation vehicles to do that. And LDL and HDL are those transportation vehicles. LDL are the garbage trucks that transport or deliver cholesterol to the cells so these cells can do their necessary work. But if there's too much LDL, it can start to leave excess garbage or debris, i.e. cholesterol, in the arteries, which leads to the plaque buildup we mentioned, and it clogs the arteries, which is atherosclerosis. This is why you want low levels of LDL to prevent too much cholesterol from being deposited in the wrong places. HDL, high density lipoproteins, can be compared to transportation vehicles that collect trash, or in this case, I like the analogy of garbage trucks. They collect the trash from the streets. The garbage trucks, i.e. the HDL particles, pick up excess cholesterol from the arteries and transport it back to the liver where it can be recycled or eliminated. And this cleanup role helps keep the arteries clear. Thus, you want high levels of HDL to ensure that cholesterol is being properly removed from the bloodstream. So sometimes people will have a higher HDL than they think is healthy. And again, read these with your doctor, especially depending on, what condition you're dealing with. But the idea is high cholesterol, high HDL is actually what you want, in the sense that you want a greater number of those garbage trucks picking up all of that excess, picking up all of that trash, picking up all of that debris, and bringing it to your liver so it can be eliminated from your body. So think of LDL as the littering truck, L for litterers. So LDL is dropping it off, littering, right, potentially in your blood. It's trying to get to the cells, but if it just keeps littering throughout your arteries, there could be buildup. So I think of LDL as the litterers, the littering truck, L for litterers, and HDL is the cleanup crew, or the haulers, so H for haulers. So litterers, LDL, and haulers. You want more haulers than litterers. Saying litterers over and over sounds strange, so I'm going to stop. So for a healthy cardiovascular system, you want fewer trucks dumping the trash and more trucks picking up the trash. I hope that helps. I find that analogy very helpful. Okay, so the LDL number, which is an important number to track, the LDL should be below 100 milligrams per deciliter. So you're going to see that as mg/dl. You want that below 100 milligrams. The lower, the better. So for a point of reference, from our most recent blood panel, mine is 79. So you want it under 100, mine is 79, David's is 71. Pretty good. The VLDL, I don't think we really hear about VLDL a lot. It's another type of LDL. It's going to be on your lipid panel, so I just wanted to mention it as well. It's one of the three main types of lipoproteins. So there's VLDL, LDL, and HDL. VLDL contains the highest amount of triglycerides. This is also a type of LDL, so it's also a type of the litterers, the bad cholesterol, because like LDL, it helps cholesterol build up on the walls of our arteries. Normal VLDL cholesterol is from 2 to 30 milligrams per deciliter. So from 2 to 30, mine is 15, and David's is 21. So again, pretty good. As for our HDL, our high density lipoproteins, HDL, as we said, it's the haulers, the good cholesterol. They pick up the extra cholesterol from your arteries, carries it back to the liver so it can be removed from the body. That's why you want higher amounts of HDL. Aim to keep your HDL above 40, with above 60 considered optimal. Mine's 58, David's is 62. So again, pretty good. Total cholesterol below 200 is ideal. That's what you'll see a lot of organizations recommend. But other levels, I think, can provide more insight. I think it's Just as helpful, I would actually say more helpful to know your LDL more than anything, as well as your HDL. So total cholesterol is helpful, but I think it's really important to know your LDL. So remember, LDL below 100 and HDL 40 to 60. So for your total, many health organizations, including the American Heart Association, they recommend maintaining cholesterol levels, total cholesterol levels below 200 milligrams per deciliter, because levels above 200 are associated with an increased risk of heart disease. However, many of you already know this, cholesterol levels, even under 200, can still pose significant risk. So the Framingham Heart Study, which has followed participants since 1948, found that individuals with a total cholesterol level of 150 milligrams or less had virtually no heart attacks. So that is what I always use as the marker for me, is 150 or less. And this is this study's been going on for a very long time. It has demonstrated that the threshold for heart attack risk is much lower than the widely accepted 200 milligrams. The problem is because the average number of total cholesterol for adults in the United States, at least I'll speak for the United States, is so high, it's over 200, that they want to just get people to, okay, just get under 200, because it's already usually in 200, 220, 240 is what's considered high, and many people are in that high number. A lot of people, millions of people, are in the high cholesterol at 240, but 200 is also high according to the research we're looking at, like Framingham heart study. So aim to get to 150 or less. I was looking at I shouldn't say it's my last. Was it my last? There was a blood panel I had done, probably that was 10 years ago, maybe more. And my total blood cholesterol was 103, 102. And people hear that number and they think there's something wrong with you because you're not, like, that's ridiculous. Well, it's because our numbers were so high in the United States that sounds so low. But right now, the most recent blood panel I had done, I'm at 151. David's 154. So I feel pretty good about that. Just to give you an idea, vegetarians and vegans do tend to have a lower average total cholesterol level compared to the general population. On average, vegetarians typically have total cholesterol levels around 160 to 200, depending on dietary patterns and lifestyle factors, of course. But vegans, who obviously avoid all animal products, tend to have an even lower average total cholesterol level, around 150 to 170. And this is largely due to the fact that we have a lower intake of saturated fat, and obviously not eating any animal products at all. But vegetarians 160 to 200, vegans 150 to 170. And I'm saying these as optimal numbers. This is not a, competition, because I know some vegans who have higher numbers can feel bad. And, some people do have genetics that contribute to higher cholesterol. I would just say there's lots of ways to play around. Once you have these numbers, there's lots of ways to play around with your diet. There's so many things we can do. And again, you want to work with a professional, you want to work with a doctor, you want to work with a nutritionist, go for it. And, just try not to judge yourself, but, look at the things that you might be able to do to kind of play with those numbers and get another test done and see what they are after you make some changes. Let's move on to triglycerides. So triglycerides are another type of fat, another type of lipids. That's why they show up on the lipid section of our blood results. And they, like cholesterol, are essential. They serve as a source of energy for our body. After we eat, our body converts calories that aren't immediately needed into triglycerides, into these get stored in the fat cells, and they're released for energy between meals. So triglycerides are essential, but high levels can increase the risk of heart disease. So the optimal level for triglycerides, remember, triglycerides starts with a T, total cholesterol starts with a T. You want to think about the number 150. That's a really nice optimal number that we see. But if you look at the range on your results, it might say between 150 and 199. But 199 is considered borderline high. So you want to kind of stay on the lower range, and you can certainly be below 150. So 150 and 199 is what you typically see. What I see from the doctors that I look at, nutritionists that I look at, is you want to shoot for something below 150. So my triglycerides are 81 and David's is 121. So definitely below the 150, which makes me happy. And again, when it comes to vegetarians and vegans, studies show that they have lower triglyceride levels compared to the general population. Vegans in particular tend to have a range. They tend to be around 150, which is very, very good. So 150 for total, 150 or below for triglycerides, 100 for LDL, and above 60 for HDL. I hope that helps. Okay. The next panel, the next section you'll see in these results is the metabolic panel. The metabolic panel measures a variety of substances in your blood to give insights into your overall metabolic health, particularly focusing on the function of the liver, the kidneys, and electrolyte balance. So let's look at what's typically measured, what they're solving for, and what your optimal levels should be. And by the way, I am going to do a blog post on this, but as always, supporters do get the transcripts for this. So obviously you're going to see this all in writing. And if you want to, please become a supporter over at Patreon, join our club, join our membership. But also someday I will do a blog post. It's just not top of mind right now because there's a lot to do. Glucose indicates blood sugar levels, and high levels may suggest prediabetes or diabetes. And I'm going to get to the type 1 and type 2. So please stay with me because there's a lot to say about how we talk about diabetes and kind of the stigma around type 2 diabetes for people who have type 1. Anyway, we'll get back to that. So I'm using the language that you typically see in the general parlance, which is prediabetes and diabetes. So prediabetes, which indicates an increased risk for developing type 2 diabetes, is considered 100 to 125 milligrams per deciliter. So 100 to 125 is considered pre-diabetes. Diabetes is considered 126 or higher on two separate tests. That's how diabetes is determined. So a healthy range for fasting blood glucose is typically 70 to 99. So again, 100 to 125 is considered pre-diabetes. So you want to be below 100. And the normal range, as I said, 70 to 99, you want to be below that 100 for your glucose. Mine was 89, David's was 85. So again, 70 to 99, definitely below that 100. Mine was 89, David's was 85. And this is what I want to talk about because it's something that's often conflated, the difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes, when discussing diabetes and prediabetes, because they are very different conditions with distinct causes and different management strategies. So type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease where the body's immune system attacks the insulin-producing cells in the pancreas, leading to little or no insulin production. It usually develops in childhood or adolescence, and it's not related to lifestyle factors. And people with type 1 diabetes need to take insulin or manage their blood sugar levels in order to stay healthy. But I want to say that even though type 1 diabetes is not caused by lifestyle factors, certainly lifestyle factors matter in terms of managing the condition. They play a significant role. People with type 1 diabetes certainly benefit from a whole foods plant-based diet to control those blood sugar levels, reduce those insulin requirements, prevent complications like heart disease, which people with diabetes are prone to. So for all these reasons, a whole foods plant-based diet is beneficial even for people with type 1 diabetes. But type 2 diabetes, on the other hand, is a metabolic disorder where the body becomes resistant to insulin or doesn't produce enough insulin. And so it's more commonly associated with lifestyle factors such as diet, such as physical inactivity, such as excess weight. So when we say pre-diabetes, it's referring specifically to the progression toward type 2 diabetes, as type 1 diabetes doesn't have a pre-phase in the same way. Some have proposed using terms like autoimmune diabetes for type 1 and insulin resistance diabetes for type 2 to avoid confusion and to clarify between the two. So I think it's important to just distinguish between them. Type 1, autoimmune, type 2, insulin resistance, and both benefit from a whole foods plant-based diet. So we're talking about, about 33 to 35 million Americans are living with type 2 diabetes, which is pretty high. And it's also demonstrated that it's preventable and it's demonstrated that it's reversible. I'm happy to say that we are not pre-diabetic based on our numbers. And of course, I attribute that to our diets and our lifestyle. There is a lot of peer-reviewed research that has confirmed that a whole foods plant-based diet can prevent and reverse it. And if you want some more information on that, of course, you can check out Dr. Neil Barnard's program for reversing diabetes, The End of Diabetes by Dr. Joel Fuhrman. How Not to Die, of course, by Michael Greger is not exclusively about diabetes, but it covers how a plant-based diet can prevent and reverse many chronic diseases, including type 2 diabetes, through evidence-based nutrition. So you want to stay below that 100 number. Mine in the most recent test was 90. David's was 85. David's coming out looking pretty good in this. And of course, this changes from meal to meal to meal. So that was, back when I took this blood test a few months ago. And you can take your blood glucose every single day if you especially are making sure that you are in a good number to avoid having to take insulin. So I'm not going to go through every result of my blood test. I'm going through these bigger ones as a marker of wellness. In the metabolic panel, blood glucose, I think, is the most significant, especially because of the prevalence of type 2 diabetes. But of course, it's also important to look at other things measured in this panel, such as calcium. You really want to make sure your bone health and muscle function are optimal. You want to be obviously in the higher range. Ours was in the higher range of the calcium range. You want to look at your electrolytes like sodium and potassium. Those were perfect for us. You want to look at protein. Those numbers were great for both of us. And protein is tricky. Protein's tricky, I think, in a blood test because there's lots of different ways to measure protein in your blood. But I think if you really want to get a really accurate amount of protein is to really track it yourself. That way you can really quantify the amount that you're getting every day. So general recommendations suggest 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight for most adults, but athletes and those with higher physical demands may need more, but that's kind of your typical calculation. But you can use the blood test, but I think if you want something really accurate, you'd want to track it every day for a period of time. I do not track my protein and I have no worries at all about my protein consumption. And our protein numbers were really good on our blood panel. I will say though, now that I'm 54 and I'm doing a lot of weight training right now, I am taking protein and in the form of powder. I am using Complement, and I'm going to be talking about Complement throughout this episode and throughout the next episode. You can find it all over my website as well. I am not sponsored by Complement Essentials, Complement Supplements, the company called Complement. I adore them. I love them. I love what they do. I love how they started. I love the person who started it, Matt Frazier. I really just admire the work that they're doing, really evidence-based approach. I love their packaging. It's compostable or recyclable, but they have compostable bags, which is pretty incredible. So I'm really loving what they're doing. And I've been using their supplements for years. And we're going to talk more about their essentials. And we're going to definitely talk about their omegas when we get to that episode. But I do want to just give a shout out and remind you, if you don't know this already, you can get 15% off every single time you order Complement Essentials, Complement Omega Complex, anything from Complement, including tests. And we'll talk about tests more when we get to omegas because we took some omega-3 tests since we weren't able to do it through our regular blood work. And everything that's over at the Complement website, you can get 15% off every time you order. Just use Joyful Vegan as your discount code. And if you use the link that's on my website, that is a tracking link. So I am an affiliate of theirs. A lot of people ask me how they can support me. I've said a number of times our Patreon supporters are down. I don't get paid for most of what I do. So if you are interested in supporting me, doing something like using the affiliate link on my website for Complement, if you're buying their products, is a help. It's an affiliate little, kickback that I get. And this is a company I stand behind, and you're going to be hearing me talk about them a lot more, especially since I've been doing a lot more around tracking my own numbers, tracking my omega-3s, tracking all these things. So head over to joyfulvegan.com. On the homepage, you will see a nice big big graphic that says 15% off. Click on the graphic, use Joyful Vegan as the code, and you get 15% off. And you get 15% off every time you use Joyful Vegan. And I just encourage you to do that every single time so you can get that discount. So I am taking their protein powder. I love it. I love it. And I eat a smoothie almost every day. But when I'm not eating a smoothie, I just puree it in the blender with some homemade soy milk. You can use whatever milk you want. And I'm really appreciating just getting extra protein. Am I seeing some kind of major difference? No, but I mean, I'm doing a lot of weight training and I'm excited by the results I am seeing. And I think the extra protein is only going to help. So go check out their protein powder. Like I said, anything they sell, use Joyful Vegan as the coupon code. Use the link just so that it gives me the little kickback from the affiliate program, and Bob's your uncle. Okay, a couple other really important biomarkers under the metabolic panel are kidneys and liver. For the kidneys, they're going to test what's called blood urea nitrogen. That's BUN, B-U-N, which measures how well the kidneys are filtering waste from the blood. They look at creatinine, which is an actual supplement you can go get over at Complement. And creatinine is an indicator of kidney function and efficiency in filtering waste. And so when on our blood panel, David's BUN was 7, mine was 8. And the range you want is between 6 and 24. So David was 7, I was 8. So feeling good about that. Now moving on, and I can do more, and that's one of the things I'm pulling all these levers to just kind of see what I can do about getting different numbers in a different place, and it's kind of fun. I love data like this. I do this, by the way, at home also with our electricity. We have PG&E, that's our energy provider, Pacific Gas and Electric, PG&E, and they have a really good online tracker. It's not real time, but it's every single day, and they do it by hour, and they do it by, I can see it like a day off, like the next day I can see the day before, and I can see the cost, I can see the kilowatts per hour, and we're playing with a lot of things right now in our home to get those numbers down. We have solar panels, but it doesn't cover 100% of our electricity use. We have an electric vehicle, so we do charge, and we're always making improvements. And that's kind of how I feel about my blood work. I'm just always really interested in kind of what levers I can pull. And creatinine is one of those supplements that you can take separately with over at Complement. And there's going to be a lot of exciting things. I'm going to be talking about, did I mention this? I think I mentioned this in the beginning. I'm going to be talking about premenopause, perimenopause, and menopause. And so they have a new formula out, which you'll see when you go over there to the Complement's website, called For Her. And it is formulated specifically to women. So again, like I said, a lot of formulations are geared toward men, or they're geared toward the general population, but they've been tested mostly on men and their physiology and their weight and height. And so again, what I love about Complement is they're always finding ways to just get really specific. And that's what their essentials are. Their essentials are geared toward people eating plant-based. They're geared toward vegans. They're geared toward people who are not eating animal products, and they've looked really hard at what potential nutrients, single nutrients, are certainly possible to get. We always talk about how we need to skip the middle animal and get our nutrients from the plants. And there are things we can do to improve our numbers as people who are eating plant-based. Omega-3s being one of them, because we're not eating any fish, even though it's really problematic if you're eating fish because there's all the saturated fat and there's all the heavy metals. But really focusing on some of these nutrients, like B12 being another one. Again, B12 deficiency is rampant in the general population as well, and it is rampant in the vegetarian and vegan populations. So they focused on formulas to address those issues, and that's what they're doing with their formula called For Her. And so creatinine is another indicator of kidney function. I want to get mine higher, and so I'm going to be taking creatinine as well, and I'm going to be taking my blood work every 3 months to see, kind of engage what changes I'm making. I love this stuff. Okay, so let's move on to iron. Iron usually shows up in its own section, and in that section, you're going to see iron, total iron binding capacity, iron saturation, and hemoglobin. And we're both good on all numbers. David's iron was a little high, which we're not concerned about, but we're going to play with some things to see if we can make it easier to get excess iron to leave his body. Now we're going to be doing our blood work very regularly. We'll see if it changes at all. But one of the things you can do to kind of get out excess iron from your blood is to give blood. And I give blood every 3 months. David used to give blood a lot more. Well, David hasn't given blood in years, but he used to do it also every 3 months or so. He used to do the apheresis machine. He used to actually do the platelet machine, which was amazing. He and I talked this morning, and he's going to actually just give blood in October, and that'll be one way to kind of use it as a gauge for potentially getting some of that excess iron out. So he does have plenty of iron. So do I in my blood. He actually had a little bit more. Probably fine. Probably not. We're certain it's not an issue because like liver disease is like one concern. We're not concerned David has liver disease. His liver numbers were actually perfect, but there could just be different reasons. And so he's going to give blood, and that could help. We'll see. So I want to talk about iron, and I want to talk about plant-based diets, and I want to talk about iron supplementation. So iron is an essential mineral that plays a critical role in the body, like all of these things do, particularly in the production of hemoglobin. And hemoglobin, by the way, is what they measure when you go to give blood. And so once again, in terms of iron and vegans and vegetarians, I give blood very regularly, and I've never been turned away. My hemoglobin numbers have always been perfect. And I mentioned this, I think, where did I mention this? I feel like I mentioned this somewhere, maybe on social media. Did I mention this in the beginning of this episode? I did take a day in between recording this because there was so much construction going around our house, that I had to stop recording. So forgive me if I already said this, but where did I say this? I feel like I said this somewhere. Oh, I think I said it in the check-in that I was doing with Encore folks. Anyway, the point is I was giving my blood, and there was a young man. He was doing the check-in for the blood donation and took my hemoglobin, was fine. My blood pressure, by the way, I should just mention, my blood pressure, it was 82/52. I tend to skew low in blood pressure, not in a way that is concerning. My doctor and I spoke about it, and she's like, I'm not concerned because you don't have any lightheadedness, you are fine, you're healthy, you're all the things, but I definitely skew low, so which is not common because most people skew pretty high with their blood pressure. So he took my blood pressure and he's like, wow, you're really calm. You're very calm. And I'm like, no, I'm not calm. I was actually really pissed off because the other building closed and I had to come here and no one told me that it was a different location. So I was like, no, I'm raging right now, and that's my blood pressure. I'm partly teasing. I wasn't raging, but I do tend to have lower blood pressure. My mom did, I think, as well, if I remember. We didn't talk about her blood pressure very often, but she, I think, had lower blood pressure as well. And then he said, wow, your numbers are great. And I said, yeah, well, I've been vegan for 25 years. That probably helps. I mean, this is an example of how, oh, I know, it was in an interview. It was when I was talking to, that's right, it was in a podcast interview recently. I was talking to Maxime from Fit Vegan, and we were talking about how I like to find ways to talk about being vegan. And, it was a very natural segue, but I didn't have to say it, but I did. And so I just said, yeah, I've been vegan for 25 years. And he immediately said, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I want to do that. I tried being vegetarian for a few days, but I couldn't. And I was like, look, a few days is not enough. This is habits. You have to change your habits. Do a 30-day vegan challenge. I might drop off my book at the blood center. I think I might, because he was interested. And the last time I actually gave blood, there was a guy who was interested. So maybe I'll drop off a few copies. Maybe I'll send them anonymously or something like that. But it wouldn't be anonymous by the time it got there because I'm on the cover. So anyway, they would know who I am. So it was a lovely experience. I always love giving blood, but hemoglobin is what they test when you are at the blood donation center. And so iron plays an essential role in the production of hemoglobin, and that's the protein in the red blood cells that carries oxygen throughout the body. And so iron also supports metabolism, it supports growth, it supports development, it supports the production of certain hormones, and without sufficient iron, your body can't produce enough healthy red blood cells, which leads to fatigue, which leads to weakness, which leads to impaired cognitive function. So maintaining adequate iron levels is essential for overall health. Those following a plant-based diet, those eating, those who are vegan, not eating animal products, it's absolutely essential to get plenty of iron, and it is absolutely possible from plant-based foods. So iron is a mineral found in the ground. Minerals are mined from the ground. They are not mined from animals. Plants provide non-heme iron, which is a bit less easily absorbed than heme iron, which is the iron that's found in animal meat, but it's not a problem when you consume a variety of iron-rich plant foods. So legumes, lentils, beans, tofu, tempeh, dark leafy greens, pumpkin seeds, quinoa, these are all excellent sources of iron. And remember, it's not just about taking in the nutrients we need, it's also about absorbing them. So making them bioavailable. And to make iron more bioavailable, you want to pair the high iron foods with vitamin C. And so you have a salad, dark leafy greens, use a lemon dressing, add bell peppers, add tomatoes, add citrus fruits. So you've got this nice natural pairing. You're not doing anything that you wouldn't do of the iron-rich foods and the vitamin C-rich foods, which can enhance iron absorption significantly. And so this is something to consider for you, wherever you are on the spectrum, and for everyone. So that said, I am firmly in the camp that believes we should not supplement with iron unless it's absolutely necessary, because supplementing unnecessarily can lead to excess iron in your blood, which can cause other problems. So your doctor should determine if you need iron supplements based on your blood tests. So work with your health practitioner, work with your doctor, but that's one of the other reasons I love complement. And, I've been kind of saying this, like, don't supplement, complement. They probably say that too. It's probably their tagline, but I love saying that because, and I talk about this in my new book coming up, The Year of Compassion, because we don't want to supplement. We don't want to just consume through pills things that we're not getting in our diet at all. We want to complement with some supplements, with some single nutrients, what we're already getting, but can just tweak a little bit. So it's complementing an already healthy diet rather than supplementing, i.e. replacing what's not there, right? So that's what I love about complement. And complement, they're essentials. They do not include iron. They include B12, they include omega-3 fatty acids, they include zinc, they include vitamin D, but they do not include iron. And I think it's something to be mindful of. Work with your health practitioner if you show low iron levels. And that's typically going to be flagged by low serum ferritin. And I don't want to get too much in the weeds with these numbers, so I'm not going to give you mine, but our numbers were fine. Like I said, David had a little excess, and he's just going to give blood and see if that helps. Okay, so let's move on to another single nutrient that is in the complement essentials, and that is B12. And that is something that we all want to make sure we are getting, whoever you are, however you're eating, because B12 deficiency runs rampant in all communities, in all populations. So we had our B12 tested. It's not typically included in a regular blood panel. I would say if there's anything you want on your blood panel that, well, if you want something in particular and you don't know if it's going to be on the blood panel, just ask. So say something like, hey, I'm going to get my blood panel done. Is B12 tested for? No. Okay, can you add it? And I don't know about costs. I have no idea. We all have different, insurance companies that we use or what have you, but just ask and they should tell you if it costs more. Same thing with vitamin D, that kind of thing. Just ask for the things that aren't typically on it. I mentioned in the beginning, B12 typically isn't on it. Omega-3 fatty acids are typically not on that the blood panel. So ask for it. And vitamin B12 is essential, right? It's essential in maintaining healthy nerve function, producing red blood cells, supporting DNA synthesis. So the other thing is, anemia isn't just not getting enough iron, it's not getting enough B12 because those red blood cells are produced by partly iron, B12, etc. So B12 is essential for brain health, for energy production, and a deficiency can lead to fatigue, anemia, nerve damage, cognitive issues, and it can be reversible or reversed, I should say. If you have been deficient in B12, you can increase it and people can reverse some of these things. But if you let it go for too long, not good. It might not be able to be reversed, and it takes a long time to do it. So please, please, please take B12. If you are following vegans who tell you not to, stop following them. That's my advice. So remember, B12 is produced by bacteria, it's not produced by animals, and it's not produced by plants. It is typically found in animal-based products like meat and dairy and eggs because animals ingest bacteria, but mostly because they're supplemented with B12. So anyone who is giving vegans crap for like taking supplements or complement, they don't understand that all of the animals and the secretions they're eating have their diet supplemented with all of these supplements. So beef cattle, one of the things that's in beef cattle feed is B12. Okay. It's not naturally found in plant foods. It's not naturally found in animal products. It's actually produced by bacteria, and animal products, the animals are fed additional B12 so that when you're consuming their flesh, you get that B12. But even so, even all of the meat eating that we have in this country and this world, people are still deficient because you're going through the animals. So once again, everybody would benefit from getting B12 from fortified foods or through complement supplements. And so complement essentials includes B12, but of course, whatever vitamin you're taking, if you're taking a multivitamin from elsewhere, that's fine. Just make sure it has B12. And if it doesn't, just take a separate B12 supplement and you can decide how much you want to take. You know, it's water soluble, so you really don't experience toxicity by taking too much, but you're just wasting money. So you can, it depends on what kind of habit you're into. If you, or what habit you're in, not what habit you're into, but whatever habit you're in, if you're already taking daily vitamins and what have you, then you can take a B12 every day. It's just you need so little, and they're usually counted in micrograms. So you really probably only need to take it once a week, but check what your numbers are. And one of the things that Complement has, they have B12 tests as well. And so you can, if you right now just had your blood panel done and you're good and you don't want to do that again anytime soon, then, and you want your B12 tested, you can go over to Complement and you can just purchase from them a B12 test. So you can do that separately at home. So it's really convenient to be able to do that at home. Now, the range. So the range is 232 on the low side. I don't know why it's exactly 232, 230 on the low side, and 1245 on the high side. Let's just say I was on the high side because mine was 1823. I know that sounds ridiculous. And it is. There's no need for it. There's no problem. It's okay, but I don't need to be at 1800. So again, 1200 is the high. I was 1800. Now, David was he was 250. He was about 250. What was he? No, he was 265. David was 265. So the low end is 232 and the high end is 1245. Mine was 1823. So I know that's ridiculous. There's not a problem. I'm not worried. I talked to my doctor about it, but I don't need to take as many. So I don't even know what I was doing. I think I was just taking it through my regular essentials. I may have been taking some additional B12 at the time as well. I don't remember, but it's definitely in the complement. And again, it's not a problem, but if you're taking complement essentials or any kind of multivitamin, you do not need to take an additional B12. And again, check your numbers yourself. So I was 1823, way over the high range, end of the range, and David was 265, which is definitely on the lower range. And everything that I've read really indicates that you want to kind of be more in the middle to high end of the range. You certainly don't have to be over like I am, and I'm going to see if I can get down, but we do want to get him a little higher. So we're just working on that. Just going to add some extra B12 once a week because he's taking complement essentials almost every day. I think when he got the blood work done, he wasn't taking it every day. And that's part of what another lever we're pulling is making sure I've got a system for him to take it every single day, even though he skips a day sometimes, which is fine, which is absolutely fine, but just trying to get him on the habit. And I think he is now. So I think he was a little not on the habit as much when he was, he was tested. And so he's, like I said, 265, but we're going to bump him up a bit, which is exciting. Now I want to disclose this. I feel like I may have said this in a podcast episode in the past, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but I don't think it's a bad idea because hopefully there's other listeners now that didn't hear that episode. But there was a time in 2018 where I was experiencing hair loss. And it was in 2018, the end of 2018. It was right when we were going to Alsace for our 2018 Alsace trip. I guess it was our first Alsace trip. I was 48 at the time, and I was freaking out. And not freaking out because, well, I was freaking out. I mean, I was just freaking out because I could see the difference. Like, I could feel the difference. I could see the difference. I wasn't necessarily getting clumps of hair coming out in the shower or anything like that. I had some girlfriends who did talk about that, about them experiencing that. That wasn't my experience, but I could tell it was thin. And I called my hairdresser because I was like, what did you do to my hair? She's like, I didn't do anything. I did the same cut I normally do. And I went back to her because I could see it. I can't even look at the photos from that trip because I just see what I know was thinned hair. So I started working with my doctor, my gynecologist, and I got a blood test and we tested for B12. Now I was low, but I was actually like around what David is right now, around around, I think I was like I don't know, 270 or something like that, which for me, I was like, that's really low. Like I was really concerned that it was that low. And the doctor was concerned as well, but I don't go by my doctor a lot. He's the one who used to ask me about protein and different questions. But I was concerned. And so basically what I did was I started taking B12, regularly, taking, kind of an additional supplement every day. And 2 months later, I got my blood tested again and it was 979. So I was definitely fine and it was fine. So I'm not super convinced the hair thinning was due to the level of B12, but I wasn't going to take any chances and I wanted to get higher and I did. I did go to my gynecologist. She was a bit incredulous that I was in perimenopause because that was obviously something that it could have been. I didn't at the time have any other symptoms for perimenopause, and she felt in the absence of other symptoms that she wasn't certain I was in perimenopause. I was certain I was in perimenopause also because of my menstrual cycle, so I knew that was slowing down. Sorry for those who don't want to hear about this, but it's part of the natural physiological body of a woman. And she was also, she was just back and forth. She didn't know. She was just like, you're in great shape. You're in great health by all other measurements. So I wouldn't be surprised if you maybe are in perimenopause and you just don't have a lot of symptoms, which is pretty typical for someone who's vegan. And so we checked my thyroid, which was fine. We did some hormone tests. Everything was fine. My zinc levels were low, which can also contribute to hair loss. And so I bumped up my zinc levels and that also improved. And after some time passed, my hair regulated itself and went back to normal. It took a few months for me to feel like it wasn't an issue. I still feel like my hair is a little thinner than it ever has been, but I'm not 20 anymore. And I have gone through menopause. I've gone through it. So I'm 100% certain that that's from hormones and hormone changes. And I'm not concerned at all. But I wanted to just share this with you. Oh, I think I made this note to myself and thought I already said it to you. So I've had several requests for a podcast on perimenopause, premenopause, perimenopause, and menopause, and I will be doing those. I'm working on them now. If you're interested, let me know. I really want to know if it's something you want to hear more about. I have had people say that they are interested in hearing what I have to say about that because they know I am 54 now and I'm, going through all the things that we all go through. And so I wanted to just disclose that because I don't want to come across as someone who has never had to look at things like these single nutrients and make some shifts. Did I ever for a second think that it was because I'm vegan and I should stop being vegan? No, not even for a nanosecond. But I was aware that there are some levers I could pull in terms of these single nutrients, whether it was B12, whether it was zinc, whether it was perimenopause. I don't quite know, but I have completely turned around regarding the B12 levels, the zinc levels, and, menopause is menopause. And like I said, my hair is back to pretty much normal. Certainly not what it was in 2018. Again, is it what it was when I was 30? No, but it's not what it was when it was an issue, and I'm not concerned about it at all. And I do talk to my hairstylist, my hairdresser, and she's like, you're fine. Your hair grows at the same normal rate that every hair grows. Like, you're fine. She's like, in fact, your hair grows very fast. So, and it's growing and it's thick and it's fine. So I just wanted to share that with you, but this is why I think it's really important to check our blood levels. Now, we tend to pay attention when we have symptoms. And for me, I was paying more close attention because I had a symptom, but we don't have to always wait for symptoms. So that's why I think it's pretty good to get our blood work done on a regular basis. So those are the things that are on a typical blood panel. For other measurements that don't tend to be on a regular panel, but that you can ask for, are a thing, especially if you're at a particular phase in your life, if you're pregnant, if you're lactating, if you're over 50, if you're over 60, if you're over 70, if you're competing athletically. There are different phases in our lives where we want to pay even more close attention. Now, vitamin D does not tend to be on blood panels. Definitely check your vitamin D. It's also a test you can get from Complement. And it's obviously incredibly important for bone health, for immune function, and it's something that can really indicate other health issues. So definitely look at vitamin D. Complement Essentials includes, I think they provide 2,000 IU of the only truly vegan D3 available, because D3 can be sourced and typically is sourced from lanolin from sheep. So it's an animal-derived vitamin. Would rather not take that if I don't have to, and I don't. So I love that Complement, of course, obviously. They use a D3 from plants or not from animals, and they provide a lot. So I'm getting my vitamin D certainly through food and also through Complement Essentials. So I did not have my vitamin D checked in my most recent panel, so I can't tell you what my numbers are, and neither did David. So we're going to do that through the Complement's vitamin D test, and I'll get back to you on that. So as far as calcium goes, though, because obviously they go hand in hand, mine was 10.1, David's was 10.5, and a normal range of blood calcium in adults is between 8.5 and 10.3. So again, I was 10.1, David was 10.5. Is it a concern that it's a little on the higher side? Yeah, we're looking at that, but not in any way that we're concerned. But obviously calcium, fine. Homocysteine does not tend to be measured on a blood test, so ask for it. And elevated levels of homocysteine can indicate a higher risk for cardiovascular disease and other neurological conditions, certain neurological conditions. So ask for homocysteine if you're concerned. Magnesium would be another one I would have checked. And again, especially if you're over 50, 60, 70, and then your omega-3s. And I am going to share with you our experience with our omega-3 fatty acids and what our tests revealed, because it's really important. And again, I've always been interested in this, and I've always been interested in kind of pulling different levers. And at 54, and when we look at the prevalence of dementia in our culture, it is something I certainly want to avoid. I do not want to have cognitive decline. There's normal cognitive decline as we get older. It's just what happens with our brains. But anything I can do to make sure that I am preventing cognitive decline and healthy heart, and omega-3s just have so many other effects. So many studies and research show that it really affects mood, can prevent anxiety and depression. So I am really excited to share with you our results of our omega-3 blood test, and that will be in the next episode. So that's it. I hope that was helpful. I hope that was interesting for you. I hope that giving you some reference point talking about mine was interesting. And I want to hear more from you. So please reach out and let me know what other topics related to this you want to hear. I'm going to be doing a video on this as well. And like I said, if you want the actual written transcript for all of this, please become a Patreon supporter for that reason and for many more. Go over to joyfulvegan.com to do that. Just click on donate. Go over to joyfulvegan.com to get the link for the Complement Essentials. I keep saying Complement Essentials. That's just their main one with those nutrients that I mentioned. It's kind of their version of a multivitamin without the things that we don't need, but plenty of things that we do. And they have many, many other single nutrients that you can take a look at, and you get 15% off when you use the code JoyfulVegan. So stay tuned for new episodes coming up. Let me know what you're interested in. Over at joyfulvegan.com, you can also check out our trips that are coming up. You can join me in France in June of 2025. You can join me in Croatia in October of 2025. In the meantime, for the animals, this is Colleen Patrick-Goudreau. Thanks for listening.